All right, let's dive right in. Today we're looking at connection, how we build bridges between people. But we're doing it through a lens that might feel a bit, well, different. It might challenge how we usually think about it. We're working from some excerpts from Chapter 3 of Dr. Pooyan Ghamari's work, where breath builds bridges, the Jigolabad way of connection. And our mission here really is to get into this unique perspective, to understand its core ideas, things like presence, trust, inner readiness, and especially how it views physical touch, not necessarily as the starting point.
Exactly. And it feels, well, counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In our world, everything often seems geared towards, immediate interaction, rushing towards that physical connection sometimes. But this text, it talks about slowing down. It suggests connection isn't something you initiate exactly, but maybe something you cultivate the conditions for.
Right, like it unfolds.
Yeah, unfolds.
Yeah.
There's some really profound insights, I think, hidden in the quiet observations the text makes.
Totally. And what jumped out at me straight away wasn't big, dramatic stuff. It was the subtle shifts, the quiet moments. It suggests that maybe real intimacy starts way before anyone actually touches. So hopefully we'll uncover some things that make you rethink how connection truly begins.
Well, the text sets this up immediately. It says that in this place, Jigolabad, connection starts with presence, just being there. Not with movement, not with immediate action. It describes touch unfolding, softly, built through breath, through waiting, just being there long enough for trust to sort of bubble up.
It's like an act of stillness.
Yes, exactly. Allowing something to ripen, maybe.
And you get a real sense of that atmosphere from the writing. The air is thick with anticipation, it says, but it's an anticipation that listens. It doesn't demand anything. You see it in the people described, too. Ayana leaning against the wall, the text says she embodies calm. She's not just, performing it. And Mira reading the silence, not moving towards anyone, but, and this is key, I think, not moving away either.
Right. That not moving away is highlighted as an act of trust in itself.
Yeah. And then there's Hana. She's touching the earth beside her. Like she's grounding herself first.
Almost connecting to the space before connecting to the people.
Exactly. And then comes that really powerful internal thought from Soraya that the author includes. Closeness isn't a step you take. It's a door you wait for until it opens from the inside.
Wow. That just reframes everything, doesn't it?
It really does.
Connection as an internal state, a readiness that has to come from within, not something you reach out and grab.
Yeah.
And the author notes the quiet that followed wasn't awkward. It was described as full, intimate quiet.
That idea, waiting for the door to open from the inside, that feels really central. So how does Gage's arrival play into this? The text seems to put a lot of weight on her presence.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Gage's arrival is described so evocatively. The text says she didn't just walk in, she arrived. Like dusk or like a hush falling.
Like a presence shifting the room?
Yes. Her presence itself felt like permission. In her eyes, the description says they saw, they didn't search or scan, so people felt understood, not just looked at.
Yeah. That's a subtle but huge difference.
It is. And even her physical description reinforces this, her hair-like language, skin shimmering, sitting right where comfort begins. It's all about her being, her presence, creating this receptive atmosphere.
And then her first message, the thing she actually says, it just underlines this whole approach. She says, you don't come here to be touched. You come here to be heard.
Not by ears, but by skin.
Right. Heard by skin. What do you take that to mean based on how the source presents it?
Well, it suggests this incredibly deep level of sensory awareness, a connection that sort of bypasses the usual channels, the intellectual, maybe even the emotional as we normally think of it.
Yeah.
It goes straight to this fundamental level of being received, being witnessed. And Gage connects this to waiting for the soul to rise up to be held, not to impress anyone, just to be accepted at that really deep level.
Wow.
It's a pretty radical view of intimacy, isn't it? Prioritizing that kind of sensory witnessing over, say, immediate physical contact.
Definitely. And then the text gives us this really raw human moment. Ellen speaks up.
Yeah, with that steady but vulnerable voice, the text says.
And admits, I'm not ready to be touched yet, but I'm ready to not be alone. There's just so much honesty packed into that. Admitting you're only partway there.
It's incredibly honest.
Yeah.
And brave in that quiet space described. And Gage's response, it's like the cornerstone of this whole Jigolabad way.
What does she say?
She just says simply, that's enough, and then adds, here, enough is sacred.
Enough is sacred.
Yeah. It's more than just acceptance. It's validation. It's saying that just being willing to stay, to not move away, to be in that shared space, even if you're not ready for touch, that's enough.
That itself is a valued step.
Exactly. It places that individual readiness, that internal door opening, above any kind of external pressure or expectation.
So with all this focus on readiness and presence, not action,
Mm.
the text then says something quite paradoxical. It says, nothing happened, but everything began. How does that work?
Right, it sounds contradictory, but this is where those tiny, subtle actions become incredibly meaningful.
Okay.
The text describes Ayana resting her palm on the earth beside Soraya. Notice, not actually touching Soraya.
Okay. Just near her.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Then Mira leans back, just slightly, a tiny bit closer to Hana.
And Hana.
Hana doesn't flinch. The text makes a point of that. No withdrawal.
So these almost non-actions.
Precisely. They're described as demonstrations of trust, the beginnings of connection being built in the shared space, but without anyone actually initiating physical contact yet.
Okay, I see.
And the text even mentions Soraya exhaling and Elian inhaling, suggesting this shared breath, this rhythm, becomes a kind of connection too.
Like attuning to each other without touching.
Yes. The author concludes that intimacy started blooming right there from the nearness, the permission, the not rushing the magic, as the text puts it, all before any direct touch.
It really builds the foundation first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Built on mutual acceptance, patience within that shared environment.
Which leads us perfectly to Gage's final thought, the one whispered at the end of the described scene. It feels like it sums up the entire Jigolabad way from this chapter.
Which is...
Touch is not what we do. It's what remains after we've truly been seen.
Yeah. That really lands, doesn't it?
Oh.
It feels like the end point of the journey described in the source.
It totally redefines touch.
It does. It
Yeah.
positions touch not as the action you use to connect, but as a possible result, maybe a natural expression that can happen after everything else is in place.
After the presence, the trust.
The feeling genuinely seen and accepted, just as you are in whatever state of readiness you're in. The connection, the source suggests, is forged in that state of being witnessed and received.
And touch might just be what's left over, what naturally follows.
One possible result of that deep connection, yeah. So thinking about this Jigolabad way as presented here, what does that idea of being truly seen actually mean for you listening? And, how does this whole approach challenge the ways we usually go about trying to connect, often starting with action, maybe looking for that immediate physical link?
So just to sort of recap the essence here from the source material, the Jigolabad way seems to be this path to connection built first and foremost on presence, on patient waiting, on really honoring where someone actually is, their readiness, and this core belief that real intimacy grows from feeling seen, feeling accepted.
Right, with physical touch maybe being an outcome, but definitely not the starting guide.
Exactly, not the starting point.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over, something drawn directly from the text we've been exploring. Consider this. What if the deepest kind of connection isn't found in reaching out, or in performing intimacy, or trying to make something happen? What if it's found in the quiet courage of just being present, of allowing yourself and allowing others the space and the time needed to genuinely feel seen?
What kind of bridges could that build?
Yeah. What kind of connections might that foster in your own life? Something to think about.